So he's managing a whole bunch of trials for a number of companies. The last two projects that we're presenting to you, both the rice and the camelina, are actually contract trials for companies that are trying to develop these products. So it's not just us trying crazy shit. There's actually people investing and trying to make a go of it. So we've also have Davis here with Yield 10, and these are trials that we're doing on their behalf as we're trying to revive camelina. So I'll take it away, Trevor.
Awesome, thanks Ken. Yeah, we also have Mark with Canary Biofuels as well. I'll chat about that a little bit too. But bear with me, like Mike said, it was kind of impromptu, last minute. Yesterday we planned to have this kind of a talk as well and have the camelina in here. So I'm slightly prepared, but we'll see what happens. But welcome to the camelina rice mixer. And if you guys got that, anyone got that reference, we are now friends. We are meant to be friends. See me after. One of my students came up with that, so that's good, and I thought I should use that. Other than that, has anyone grown camelina in the area? Anyone familiar with camelina? Cameron? Is Cameron here too? Cameron used to work with us a couple years ago, and we used to call her camelina too. So, and we do have some guys that are actually familiar with camelina, so that's awesome. There has been a resurgence in interest in camelina. We've kind of been seeing it. Ken has definitely seen it too. We had some research in the past, Farming Smarter did, and you know, we never really seen it take off. It kind of just fizzled out, and but now we're actually seeing more interest build back up with it. I think partly because, you know, that the one topic that got brought up over with the rice was the market, right? So access to market is actually getting better. And yeah, it's becoming more viable, right? We can actually access it. So like I said, Mark with Canary Biofuels, they actually have production here in Lethbridge. So there's actual production being done here in Lethbridge. And then Yield 10 is also a big link in there too. You know, they are really developing varieties of camelina that can be grown in different regions, our region included. So they're funding research and development in the camelina varieties heavily. And you know, I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle. If we don't have the proper varieties, how can we really even grow anything and even get it to market? And then the other piece to that is exactly that, the market, right? Being able to actually sell it and actually sell it locally, right? You know, there are some markets maybe further away, but really does it become economical to really transport like far distances to actually get it there. So I think there's been a lot more actual access to the markets to be able to grow the camelina. Some of those industries include bioplastics, biofuels, and omega-3 oils. There's also a company in Saskatoon, and they are called Smart Earth, which is contracting acres of camelina. I think I've seen like 2,000 acres or more of camelina there. And they're producing high animal feed that is high in omega-3s, mainly for horse supplements. And so for that little area, I guess it's small acres, right? They actually have a good market for the camelina to be able to sell into the horse supplement market. Also, camelina is used for jet fuels as more of a sustainable and renewable option, and biofuels in general. So again, another market that is emerging and that can actually take up some of that production, which can be nice. So again, with that, I think that's some of the major reasons why we're seeing more interest in camelina come back, and now we need to relook at that regionally, right? So some of the plots that we're seeing here, we had some timing trials. Mainly we can just see the fall seeded ones here. And then we also have variety plots here as well that you can see. And we seeded all those in the fall. We had really good moisture, so they actually look really nicely. And you can really visually see some differences in those varieties. I won't get into that much, but just wanted to mention that, you know, Yield 10 is doing fantastic work looking at varieties. And again, trying to regionally pick those varieties that are going to be the best for our area. Camelina, like other novel crops, can add to the diversity of our crop rotation. There are winter varieties and spring varieties as well that can, we can utilize in our rotations and add to our options. And adds flexibility to our planting timings and operations. It does compete really well with weeds and has great winter survivability and can grow in lower moisture, soil moisture conditions as well. So with the lower, or with the winter survivability, it can be one of those nice crops. We don't have to totally just think about, our normal winter wheat, fall rye, those kind of crops. This could definitely add into that winter cropping rotation, which would be nice. And one of the things that we've kind of found is, kind of getting into the agronomics now, is if you can get it established in the fall and you have enough moisture to get it established and get that nice big rosette actually forming, then that's kind of where it can compete with those weeds in the early fall. And then also it has a really good chance to grow fast in the spring and really close that canopy and really compete against those weeds really nicely. You can see some weeds popping up in there, but I mean, you can see it also is looking really nice and full, and some of these plots haven't really been affected by the weeds much at all, which is really nice, right? Because as a novel crop, it doesn't have very many herbicide options. You really need to do a really good burn down to get rid of your weeds and really give your camelina a chance to grow. We do use Edge, with the crop, and you can apply in the fall, and then you can also apply in the spring as well, even when that rosette is there, and try to give some herbicide assistance. Yeah, if you can get that edge incorporated, we have seen that works a little better. This has been no-tilled, and we just spread the edge right on top, but seems to help a little bit. Yield 10 is working on genetically modifying some of their varieties to have glufosinate resistance, and that could really, again, probably increase the ability to grow a lot more acres, a lot better. Yeah, and we hope to actually help with some of that research as well, so might see that coming to us soon. Survivability, yeah. Again, if you get the crop established nicely in the fall, we have seen that it survives the winter really well. It's actually a really hardy plant. With some of our experience, I guess, we actually seen in Tabor with our winter cropping adaptability study that the fall seeded camelina did better than the spring because of that moisture that it could get in the fall, and it survived the winter just beautifully in Tabor, which has a harsher winter than Lethbridge, right? So Lethbridge, we've seen that winter wheats and some other winter crops actually survive not too bad here in Lethbridge, but as soon as you get towards like Tabor, Bow Island, and Enchant, they start to get more harsh winters, more frost, and can kill some of those winter crops. And I don't know if I said Tabor, but actually we had that trial in Bow Island. And when we seeded the camelina in the spring, well, a little caveat to that, we were actually using the winter variety, but still, like when we seeded it in the spring, it was just so dry for so long, and we weren't able to get irrigation on it right away, that seed just didn't germinate very well. We tried to reseed it at like the first week of June, I think, and it just never really had a chance. So yeah, depending on your region and your water availability, you're gonna get some of those different effects. And because it's such a small seed too, like, yeah, you really need that moisture to be there, and sometimes having it in the early spring at that shallow depth is just not possible. camelina can be seeded down to, I think, like half an inch, quarter inch is good for the seed. We did accidentally seed some of these plots at like an inch. I don't know if you'd be able to even tell. So, and Yield 10 has done some work on seeding depth, so maybe a little bit more work to do there to see, you know, what can actually be done with the seed. But yeah, like it's such a small seed that I think it's at least half the size of canola or less. So seeding depth is definitely a consideration. You want to be able to seed that at a uniform depth throughout the field, so you have uniform emergence. One of the good things about seeding in the fall and having that fall crop be resilient is that it flowers a little earlier. Like some of these plots are, well, basically all of it looks like it's done flowering. And so we missed that July heat. We did have some early heat, so we'll see if there was any heat blasting. But normally you're gonna be able to miss that heat and also hopefully miss some of the pests or diseases that come in a little later as well. So that could be nice. Yeah. So
what was the kind of average harvest timing on the camelina crops?
Oh man, I think we were like mid to late July. I think you're able to get in there. Yeah.
So you could easily get something in after for fall type stuff.
Or early August, yeah. Yeah, you might be able to harvest and then get something else in, is what Mike was kind of saying. Yeah.
What are realistic yield expectations compared to canola?
Oh man, I don't have much information on that. Davis might have something more.
Yeah, typically what we're seeing is on dry land. It's like if you're going on your prime canola acres where we're pushing yield, you're not going to be getting the same yield as canola, but if you're on dry land that's moisture limiting, you'll probably do better than canola when the yield drops off on your canola. So kind of like a hedge against dry conditions.
Yeah. Yep.
How's the harvest like? Do you swath or straight cut, or do you challenges with combining?
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So the question was, what's our experience been with combining it? Do we swath? Do we straight cut? Those kind of questions. And just from my own experience, I don't know the field scale production kind of side of things. Ryan Mercer might. So if you want to ask him after, if you want to comment, you can. But with our experience too, it holds its seed not too bad, and straight cutting it works really good. I think we were using our canola sieves, and I think we were actually turning up our air pretty good too. And you can get it somewhat clean, kind of like alfalfa sometimes too, right? Like you have to kind of deal with a little bit of trash here and there, but a little bit of play and learning in that sense though, of really getting your settings and understanding when it is mature. And I've kind of found watching the crop closely, because it seems like it will be holding on to its seed good, and then depending on the weather and stuff, it could shell out a little bit too. So there's definitely some learning experience that needs to be had in those kind of areas as well, 100%. Kind of like the seeding as well. And Mike alluded to it too, all those aspects to a novel crop need to be looked at. And probably for every operation too, right? Like we all have to learn our own way too, right? So, for sure.
Nutrient management, NPK?
Yeah, we were going kind of just a standard for ourselves anyway. I think we were going like 100 pounds per acre of actual N and about 20 to 30 pounds of P. Yeah. I don't know all the agronomy with the fertilizer, but yeah, I think a little less than canola. I don't think it needs quite as much fertilizer as canola, so there could be some cost savings there. And kind of just going along that cost savings a little bit is with Yield 10, there is no upfront cost on the seed. Yeah, so that there could be some benefits there. The seed is quite light and small, so for transportation and those kind of things, and having a large hopper, you probably can use a smaller hopper, those kind of things to actually seed. Maybe using less fuel to actually seed as well. So there's probably lots of little things there to try to consider and figure out when looking at a crop like this. Yeah.
Did we end up broadcasting any at some of those other sites, or was this all drilled?
This was all through the drill. Yeah, all the nutrients were placed through the seeder. So the map with the seed, and then the urea was side banded. Yeah, one of the things that we've kind of found, like I was saying, was that really crucial to get, if you're seeding the fall, is really get that plant going, and then you will compete against the weeds. One thing we were finding too was a potential for a little bit of allelopathic tendency for the crop. There's not really much work or scientific study into that, but it seems like there's a little bit of tendency for the crop to have that and actually compete against the weeds a little bit. We were seeing it in Brooks this year, where we didn't really have good moisture in the fall and we didn't really get the crop going nicely. So weeds took over, and it doesn't seem like the crop really emerged there, and mainly due to moisture, like I was saying. And but where we've seen patches of the camelina, we were seeing a little bit more competition and control of the weeds. And could that be just the plant filling out and out-competing those weeds in that location? For sure, but it seems a little too clean, and a little too good a competition. So there could be some work into that to really see if there is actually an effect from the crop itself. And if there is, another step would be that crop rotation sequencing, right? So what to grow before camelina and what to grow after is something that could be looked into to find that best crop rotation. Yeah.
Ideal seeding dates and ideal seeding range.
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think. Oh, okay, yeah. So Ryan was asking, what is the perfect seeding date and seeding rate? Again, I'm not really the expert on that exactly, but what we have found was a little earlier seeding and hitting some moisture to really get good emergence and get that plant growing to the rosette stage. So you want to give yourself enough time to actually grow, kind of like the winter wheat, right? So you want to actually get that plant growing. So I would say early to mid-September is good. We did see with our winter cropping study that some the dormant timing, so seeding like right before freeze up, actually worked out pretty good here in Lethbridge. And we had some irrigation and moisture to actually get that seed germinated in the spring. And so that worked out good. But if you are seeding at that time and you don't get moisture in the spring because you're on dry land, you might run into some issues where you're not going to have that crop to emerge. And then, yeah, and if it does emerge when it gets some rain, then maybe your weeds like kochia or whatever else that actually can handle those type of conditions are going to take over then. So yeah, some of those things we can't control, but really taking that in consideration. The timing of your seeding, if you're going to seed, try to seed a little earlier and hit some rain that's coming. Yeah, those kind of things. Any other questions on? And seeding rate. I think we were seeding at just below 500 seeds per meter squared with this. Yeah, some of the plots do pretty good, but some of the varieties we might have to think about raising that seeding rate a little bit. So a little bit more work into that. I don't know if that's something that you found.
What about you, Davis?
Yeah, it seems like it's condition dependent.
So a bit similar to canola then. Yeah. Awesome.
I was going to mention also that we haven't done much work on it, but we spent the morning talking about cover crops, and we've got a crop here that's got an incredibly small seed. It's winter hardy, and it grows well in those types of conditions, and it's got an allelopathic effect on weeds. I feel that this is an opportunity crop for us, and maybe even some of those rougher soils where you could possibly even broadcast it with a plane or a drone or whatever. So we're hoping to develop some trials where we'll look a little bit more at camelina as a cover crop as well.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like I think part of that is that rosette too. If you can get that rosette growing nicely in the fall, you can really protect your soil as well.
Does anybody know if cows like camelina? No idea.
Camelina meal is high protein, but the actual biomass itself, it's not something to go graze in the fall.
That's probably why they're using it as more of a supplement then for the horses, is not just feeding it straight to them, but actually extracting those omega-3s and actually supplementing the feed.
I think in the first phase, getting the meal approval was a barrier for adoption, but we've got that figured out now, right?
Yep, yeah, it's approved as a 10% in your ruminant ration. And it's got a high protein content, about 40%.
That's it?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Any other questions?
If you do have any other questions besides that, I'm around, so just feel free to come up and I'll help you out as best as I can, and Trevor too.
Well, join me in thanking Trevor. So while I've got you here, I just want to thank you all for coming. Really do appreciate your attendance and your active participation. I want to thank David for coming up from Boise and Ben for spending the whole day with us. Honestly, having you guys around all day adds to the overall conversation, so really do appreciate that. Thanks to our sponsors, Alberta Wheat Commission, FMC, got the Equus guys at the back. If you need some power, they'll set you up. Before you guys leave, we're going to drop you off at the Quonset. I really appreciate if you guys can fill out the evaluation form. This is important for us to actually, I mean, we want to do good events for you guys, but we also need that information to help secure the funding. Everybody has this account. They're trying to keep us accountable, but it depends on the data that we give them. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out, that'd be much appreciated.